What up? What up? What up? What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Smooth Order. Welcome to Negroes with a Podcast. I don't know what I was about to say. Negroes with a breakfast.
I don't understand why you never get the name of your own podcast right.
Because you know what it is? It's because I say it so much. Like I feel like I'm always saying it wrong. Like I always say NWAP, Negroes with a Podcast, and then like when you like my brain goes on auto. So like I start thinking of other things while I'm doing this generic intro.
You get too comfortable.
You remember the original name of the podcast?
Oh shit!
Was it Niggas with the Podcast? And I was like, no, we cannot name it that. And I was the only person who was like, no, we can't name it that. Everybody else was like, yeah. And I was like,
but you never went live with that, right?
No.
I was would have been like, fuck no.
No, we were doing this is like in the planning stages when we were originally doing podcasts 4.5 years ago.
Oh,
and,
like
we were like, and we were like, yeah, what are we gonna name it? And then it became with like a bunch of ridiculous names. And then some Atlantic writer who will not be named was like, make the podcast. It's like, and Des was like, yeah, let's name it that. And I'm like, guys.
What are you doing?
That wasn't a reply.
Do you ever want anybody to hear anything that we're doing right now? Right? Like, no. Oh, anyway, so I was thinking of I always do the same intro whenever I do it because that's just how I do it. But I was thinking about breakfast at the time because it's 2:45 and I haven't eaten yet. So I was thinking about food. I came out with Negroes with a breakfast. Anyway, it's your boy Smooth Order.
That sounds like one of those empowerment things where we could sell tickets for like $89.
Negroes with a breakfast.
And they come out and get empowered, right?
All right.
Yep, I'm Tunde. Talk 7.
Lextopia here.
And yeah, we're gonna jump right into it today because niggas got stuff to do, which is actually how we ended up on this topic in the first place. So for those of you who don't know, I am currently in grad school. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will know that I've also gone to law school prior to going to grad school, and therefore going to grad school may not make a whole lot of sense to you. And if you didn't know that, you're probably wondering why I'm going to grad school right now, which we'll get into in a second. Lex is a business owner / director of vibes /
No, you did not. No, you did not. I am so curator. And I'm so mad. I'm so tickled about that. Because I did not expect you to disrespect me like that.
Fucking vibes curator.
Yeah. I hate that word.
And Tunde's Nigerian, so like niggas is just, we all have our own little backgrounds of like overachievementness, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is the stress of being an overachiever. So since I'm talking, I will go first. So I went to law school and I graduated. I did not pass the bar. I only took the bar once. If you know anything about the bar, most people take the bar twice. I didn't want to pay for it. So I didn't take it. And then I decided that I was going to do a career switch, a mid-career switch, which I hadn't even started a career, but I was going to do a career switch to journalism. And I was a freelance writer for a while. I was doing all this writing stuff or whatever. And I was like, no, I think I want to be like an actual journalist. Like I want to work in the field of journalism, which is how I ended up going back to grad school in January of last year, which would be 2017. I am in the final semester of grad school and I will graduate in 6 weeks. And when I tell you, like, I am neck deep in assignments right now that I can't even, like, this podcast is getting in the way of my homework, nigga. So that's kind of how I came into it. That's where I'm at today before we even get into the rest of this. Lex, tell people, you always talk about you being tired and shit. Like, what is it that you be doing and how often do you be doing it? Because you used to have, when we used to do the podcast back in the day, you used to have like an entire wall full of shit that you were writing on.
You still got some shit back there.
I moved because I'm just a weirdo. I used to have the whiteboard paint and I did it on the whole wall. But since I moved, now I'm like stressed out because I'm like, I don't think I want to do that again. But I need to write stuff down. So there was a minute, like a month ago, I just had like random ass pieces of paper stuck on my wall. And I was like, now I just look like even more of a serial killer. So I finally, like for people watching the video, like I finally got this little whiteboard and I put like a lot of stuff on it. And I just put, like, I have Post-it notes all over my room that, I don't know, I'm a weirdo because instead of actually putting pictures up, I put up Post-it notes that say family photo, put a plant here, put a shelf here. Like, I just overly analyze things. But my life has been really crazy.
Actually not a bad idea.
Well, because after I moved, I was like, oh, well, I had an idea of things I want to get. I just don't have the money, or I haven't gotten stuff yet. So it says floor plan, and that says family photo, and I need to actually get some. So this summer has been fucking crazy for me. I'm like extremely exhausted and overwhelmed, and I took on way too much. A couple of my clients were like extremely, extremely needy, not necessarily in a bad way, but like they just had a lot going on, which has been cool to work with them. But I have my company. I have 2 startups now. I had the one startup I was working with, and now branched into another startup. Trying to get this online mastermind group off the ground that I started doing another podcast, doing this podcast. Was trying to do some research that I could have got some funding around, but because I started trying to do too much, things started to slip. So like, for example, I'm having like good bad problems where okay, I have on my wall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who want me to send them like a sales proposal about, you know, doing work in social media strategy or consulting. But I've literally, one of them is like weeks old, and now it's getting awkward to where I'm like, shit, you know, how can I actually do my work or take on these people if I can't even get to sending them some shit, like to even get it started? So it kind of makes me reevaluate, like, how am I operating? What are my systems? I'm doing too much of like bartering my time for money, and like, how can I do things a little smarter? But I'm enjoying the things that I'm doing. I'm just like extremely tired, and I just try to do too much.
All right, Tunde.
Right now, let's see. I work full time. I currently switched professions also. I think I talked about it on the show before. I was doing research, biomedical research, and now I switched full time out of the lab into full time teaching, and I'm currently a professor. I have a full course load this quarter, teaching intro to biology, survey of anatomy and physiology. On top of that, I'm training for a marathon, which is why every week I'm always late to the podcast because I'm running.
Wow, you admitted it. Yeah.
I'm running obscene amounts of miles. I just finished running 17. Yeah. So that's all I'm doing right now. I think as far as professionally, I think teaching is, outside of grading, it is, you know, a bit of a step back from the lab. It's not as stressful. So.
Okay.
Tunde, do you sign things with a doctor?
No.
Dr. Kinniker?
I don't even like I tell my students to call me with my first name. I don't even like being called that.
Damn. You don't want no respect on your name?
Mm-mm.
Prince Doctor.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So I noticed that, and I know that you said you took a step back from the lab before, but I felt like you were doing like you were juggling like a lot of different stuff before. Like I think you were doing the lab stuff, and then you were like teaching like an online course back in the day or whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
So like I go to grad school and I work full time, and then I freelance right outside of that, and then I do this podcast. And Lex does like everything, as she just said. And we're all in our early to mid 30s, and in Tunde's case, mid 50s.
Because I feel like I have to do this. I don't know if that's
right. I was actually gonna get to like why do we do this to ourselves, or why have we done this to ourselves in the past? And since you were already starting, Lex, I'll just go with you.
I feel like I've done this to myself because, well, I guess there's 2 parts to it. There's the like psychological, like what's going on in my mind, and then there's the technical, like because of the way life is these days, where we don't necessarily have regular jobs, or you know, there's more ability for you to create some shit and like to do your own shit and you actually get paid. I have bills to pay, so you know, whether it's figuring out where is money going to come from this, like it feels like you have to kind of play the game across the board to just kind of see what's going to pop sometimes. Like it could, you never know, like, but you need to do things you actually care about, and then it makes it a little easier. But psychologically too, I feel like I'm making up for some kind of missed time. personally, I feel like, and I try not to think too much about time and age and all that, but I'm like, I'm 33 and I know what I care about now a lot more, like in the last year or so than before. And so it's almost like, man, like I know what I can do. And I just really want to get to a point of like being further up within like a certain field or within this certain thing that I'm working towards. And so it's just like super hustling just to get there. Kind of like when you're in a race and like you see the finish line, it's almost more frustrating at that point where I see the end, but I still have to keep running versus, before. So like I can't stop now, but it's just exhausting to keep going.
What's interesting about that? You were talking about like you want to get to a point where like everything sort of runs more efficiently, or like
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to juggle as many things because you already have the system set in place. I think about this all the time.
It requires money.
Right. I think about this all the time in terms of like in terms of video games, right? And what I mean by that is like all video games kind of have like the same sort of rhythm in the beginning and middle and the end. In the beginning, when you start playing a video game, like whatever game that you're playing, like you don't know how anything works. Like you're basically, you have to learn the systems. You have to die a few times. You have to misuse your resources. Right. You're basically trying to fill your way out. And maybe like, and the more you're able to fill your way out and stop thinking so much about what you're doing and start automatically like processing, all right, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I need to do this, I need to do this, I'm gonna do this in order for this to happen. Right. You don't get that way till halfway in the game, right? And usually at the end of the game, you're like, you know so much about everything, like you basically running on autopilot. But like that middle part where like I learned everything and now I'm in the groove of doing the thing. I always look at life like that. Like I hate being, and this is actually what gets me in trouble. I hate being in the beginning. I hate basically like feeling around in the dark, right? Like I hate that feeling of like, I don't know where the light switch is to turn the light on, right? But when I get to the part where I control the light switch, I love being in that moment. But it's like everything in my life it always feels like me searching around in the dark. Like I went to law school and I graduated and I was like, yeah, I'm about to be a lawyer. That didn't pass the bar. And I was like, I don't really want to pay 12, 15, 17, 18, whatever thousands of dollars it was to retake the bar. But I really do enjoy writing. So I'm going to do that. So then I did that. And then I was like, yeah, well, freelance writing and getting freelance checks is like wildly volatile. Like this is an unsustainable way to live. Like, and I work in an industry where niggas still believe in paper checks and they don't cut them shits till like 30 days after some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I did an article for Vibe. I wrote the article in August. They were in like July and they were like, yeah, you're not going to get the check till the end of September. And it's like, nigga, that's like 2.5 months from now.
Right? Like, you gotta always be working because you never even know like when you're gonna have a job, not get a job, when the check's coming.
Right. And then like now, like I go to school full time and I work full time and like I do the podcast and I freelance write. And it's like I enjoy doing the podcast. I enjoy freelance writing. I actually like my job. And school's not that bad. But it's like you get into these moments where it's like I hate everything, dog. Like I don't want to come to the podcast because I'm supposed to be doing homework and I can't do my homework if I'm doing the podcast. I want to freelance write because I enjoy freelance writing and those checks come pretty decently, but I don't have the time to freelance write because if I'm freelance writing and I'm not doing the homework that I should have been doing, then I'm basically like doing something that I could have been doing something else. Like the freelance shit gonna always be there. This homework not always gonna be there because I need to get this degree, right? Like I go to work and I'm like, I can't always focus on work because I'm like, nigga, I got like 75 things to do as soon as I leave this bitch. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
wake up in the mornings. Like, what are your first thoughts in the morning?
Nothing. I literally don't think. I try not to think about it. Like as soon as I wake up in the morning, the only decision I make in the morning is, am I going to the gym or am I not going to the gym?
God, that's good.
That's the only thing. Because that's the only thing. I mean, I go to work at noon, so like I only have about so many hours to like try to finesse. Like, all right, if I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna try to do some homework. Like, am I going to the gym? I'm not going to the gym. And if I'm not going to the gym, am I gonna do homework? If the answer is no to both questions, I'm not going to do anything.
Like one of those little charts where it's like, yes, no.
Yeah, one of those flow charts is like, yes, no, yes.
Because my biggest issue is like, because I have so many things, I'm thinking about it all at once, all the time. So it's very hard to prioritize and very hard to like pinpoint, okay, like shut up everything else and let me just think about one thing.
Right, but I didn't get to the negative of that. If
Oh,
I don't go to the gym in the morning, I'm gonna feel
got it.
guilty. If I don't do any homework, I'm gonna feel guilty. So now I'm going to work with that guilt. And when I
Mm-hmm.
get home, now I have to turn around and try to make up for the fact that I didn't do shit this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it works, and then it like doesn't. Tunde, jump in on here.
So that guilt, when you ask Lexi, you know, where does that come from that I have to overachieve? I think that growing up, that's how my parents always taught me, like the devil.
An idle mind is a devil's playground.
Yeah, out of my devil's playground. Like I always had to be doing something. Like in high school, I was like I played sports. I played basketball. I ran. I was honor society, peer mediators, and on top of that, I had jobs. I was still working in high school, so that translated into college and into grad school. So I'm always doing something. So even now, I don't work on. I don't have classes on Tuesday and Thursday. So you would think that those are days I would just sit back and just relax.
Nope.
I always find myself doing something the whole day, and I'm even more tired on days that I don't work than the days that I do work. So I think it's that guilt that if you're just doing nothing, then you feel like a bum.
Does that mean we've tied our identity into the wrong things? If you feel like you can't just relax sometimes, or is that just the state of life where niggas can't afford to just relax?
I think it's like a combination of both.
Yeah.
Really. Like I think that like when I wasn't working, when I was like unemployed, like I wasn't freelance, right? And I wasn't doing nothing. When I was unemployed, I felt like I spent a lot of time and I was like depressed. I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to divorce this idea of who I am and the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I feel like we're inundated with, we're inundated with all this information, like what you do is who you are, like the work that you do, speaks to, whatever. And I realized like at one point, like my nigga, a job is just a job, right? Like a job has a purpose. The job's purpose is to pay you so that you can afford to live, basically, right? So like before I used to be like, oh, I want to be a writer. I have to be a writer. I have to write. I have to write. I have to write. I have to write for a living. And it's like, actually, I don't. Like I have a skill set that is employable that somebody will pay me for. And as long as I don't hate going to work every day, if I actually, and like I said, like I like my job, it has writing elements to it, but it's more like on the producing side. So it's like I like my job and I like going to my job, but my job doesn't define me, right? Like my job is what I do when
your job is writing, and that's kind of like a passion of yours. That kind of makes sense to be a little bit more actual part of your identity, right? Maybe not actual, like
not necessarily. I'll call it what one of my friends used to call it dream adjacent, right? It's not what your dream is. It's next to what your, like my job has writing elements in it. I do spend a lot of time writing. This sort of writing that I'm doing is not my job. I mean, it's not my dream, right? It has an element of what I like to do, but it ain't my dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't my dream to be a news producer. Like that wasn't the case or whatever. Like I wanted to write essays and paragraphs and books and all that kind of shit. But my job allows me to do that on my own time. Like I can still freelance, right? And I can if I wanted to write books and essays and all that shit on my free time, I can do that. So I spent a lot of time just kind of divorcing this idea of like my job defining me, because if my job defines me, then what happened? How am I defined if I have no job? Right? Like my job, like how I define myself can't be based on some shit that I don't have any control over, is basically where I was going with that.
But maybe it's also more than saying your job defines you, and to say that you're defined by whatever principles you see yourself as. Like maybe for me, I'm more defined by this feeling of like I need to be successful, or I need to be something in particular. However, I try to do that by like doing the most. But I'm not. It's weird because you talk to people and they'll tell you like, oh, well, just take a break, or don't you relax, or when do you have time for yourself? And it's like, nigga, like I got bills to pay. It's really hard for me to separate or to understand what the lines are between I do need to be doing things versus like, okay, it still shouldn't be detrimental to yourself to be doing them.
Yeah, Tunde?
So you mentioned like a time like when you were unemployed, right? So I've also been unemployed. So That's actually how I got back into running. So this is 2013, and I was at my first fellowship at NYU, and because of like the landscape of how funding is for research in this country, it's like a very competitive field. So the lab I was working with in had lost funding, so my PI or principal investigator, who was like in charge of the lab, couldn't afford it to pick up or pay everyone's salary. So since I was getting paid the most, obviously I had to go. So I was unemployed for from like April until like November. So at that point in time, it makes you realize, I think especially as a man, like, not saying women can't feel this too, but especially I felt as a man, like, oh, okay, a lot of who I am is tied up into what I do for a living. And, I don't take it for granted that I do a lot of things to keep myself busy, because during that time I got back into running after taking a year off. I got up every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and ran. I got my bartending license. I never even bartended. I just got it because it's something that I always wanted to do, and it's things like that that help you maintain a sense of having something to do, I guess. So when people say, do you ever take a break? I'm like, no. It's stressful, but I don't think I would have it any other way.
But I think when people say like, do you ever take a break? It's stressful. I always think to myself, like, and this is how I do a lot of things in my life, is I pro and con it. Like my question is always, what's the alternative? Yep. Right. All right. So I'm working my ass off. I'm working this job, I'm going to grad school. I'm doing this freelance. I'm doing this podcast, which is trying to get us some money or whatever like that. I'm doing all this stuff. Right. Do I want to take a break? Okay. Well, look at the pros. I will probably be a little bit less stressed. Probably have a little bit more time to sleep. Probably have a little bit extra time to get some work done. What are the cons? Nigga, you're gonna be broke as fuck. And it's like, we're not there yet.
And buy happiness.
The fuck it don't.
Exactly. Please.
Somebody give me $1 million and all of
that shit. I'm like, yeah, we can't be friends.
If somebody give me $500,000 right now, it will make all my problems go away.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody give me $275,000 right now, all my problems would go away. You know what I'm saying?
So, I know, if I give me 100 racks right now, it's tax free.
Nigga, that take care of 85% of my problems. I was just trying to fit my student loans in that bitch when I was asking about taking care of my problems. Give a nigga 500,000, we good. Give a nigga 275, we good too. You know what I'm talking about? Like that'll take care of the car payment, the credit cards, the student loan payment. I'll be able to start from zero. And I think about that a lot. Like,
that's sad in itself. That's not even any extra.
Right. That's just enough to start
to get you
zero.
To have a net worth of actually $1.
Right. I think about that a lot.
My net worth is like super negative. That shit's wild to me. I'm really not worth anything. I'm a piece of shit out here.
Yeah. Join the club, nigga. I'm the president.
So how do you feel about this then? Because Tunde, you brought up, while you were unemployed, you started doing all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you think being an overachiever comes with just feeling a need to be busy as in not necessarily even productive, but you just have to be doing something? Like even right now, I can't just do this podcast. Like I'm picking up my phone. Like I can never just do one thing at a time.
I think it goes hand in hand, because I can be busy. Like
you just need to feel. Sometimes you just need to feel like you're doing some shit, even if it's not even important.
I have to be productive too. I'm sorry. Like I could be. Let's say I went and got a job at Target and I worked fucking 15-hour days. I'm busy, but then I would still feel like, not saying there's anything wrong with working at Target, but
so it still needs to be something you like or want to do.
Yeah, I feel like I have to
kind of progress.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to make a difference. Like when I'm teaching, I feel like I'm making a difference. When I was in lab, I feel like I made a difference.
Ooh, I like that point. Because I think that makes it harder too, personally for me, when people are sending you messages and they're like, man, I really felt when you said this or when you talked about this or I see you doing this and that. And, you know, people just see what they see. But I'd be like, damn, that shit makes me feel bad. Like, now I can't chill. Like, I was about to watch a Netflix show. Let me get back on my shit, which I guess is good because a lot of times other people will inspire / motivate me by them feeling inspired. But sometimes I just be wanting people to know, like, dog, I do not be feeling good, like, a lot of times. So I need to get that shit out.
I'll be dead ass. That's probably why I haven't quit the podcast yet. Is only because I know that this podcast is reaching people and people be reaching out to us and stuff like that. And that's not to say that the only reason why I'm doing this podcast is because other people like the podcast.
Yeah, it has space.
Right. Like I enjoy. I mean, this is really the only time I get to talk to y'all niggas during the week for real. So, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely enjoy doing the podcast like that. But like, there's been times when we were doing the podcast and I was just like, nigga, like I ain't got it in me today, dog. Like I need.
We're going on long as hiatuses.
I was just telling Lex before we started the podcast, like I might got to take the rest of the month off this bitch, yo, because like I really got like I haven't fallen behind on all of my projects yet. Like I'm basically juggling all three right now in a pretty even fucking you know what I'm saying, in a pretty even kill. But like, nigga, it's rough. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
it's rough.
I've been behind for like a month on most things. And then it sucks because you can get things done. Like you can have a full productive day and it's still like you're not really quite caught up. And so like kind of how somebody alluded earlier too, it's I think a big thing about it, if you're gonna be an overachiever, you really, really have to have a perspective of like forgiveness of yourself and like I got things done. You know what I mean? Like I could go all day working. Damn, I got 50 things left to do, but I got things done. And like really having that perspective, because otherwise, like you'll never be happy. There's always more.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about hold on. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about doing for the forgiveness aspect of, because when you're an overachiever, you're really hard on yourself.
You're the hardest person on yourself.
The hardest person on yourself. You carry all these different burdens. Like you got all this different shit going on. Let's talk about that for a second. Tunde, talk about that for a little bit.
So I have when I started teaching this quarter, I used to have like the post-it notes, and each day I have like my planner on my phone, but I hate digital stuff. So like I always like writing shit out and checking it off. So I used to have the post-it notes, and to me they got like I would leave a post-it note here and then I forget whatever I need to do. So I bought a elephant planner. So each day I write out exactly what I have to do. My list, like today, my list is like has like 10 things on it. So if I get to like, if I don't do at least 8 out of those 10, I'm like, man, fuck. Man, I'm thinking about it. I'll dream about the last 2 things. Like I gotta do that shit.
That's real.
But it takes so much to like break yourself out that habit, because that's not healthy.
There's better ways to make lists and to-dos too, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's not healthy at all. Like I said, I'll lose. Like if you dream about shit, you're not getting really good sleep, and then you get up next morning, and then you're tired. And
wake
like,
up.
this morning, the reason why I was late to the podcast because I started my run late. I wanted to start my run at 7. I started at 8 because I was so tired this morning. Because last night I had to make an exam. I didn't finish the exam. So I gotta do that today. So like, I don't know. I feel like we have to like put ourselves in the habit of not beating ourselves up when we don't get to like everything that we need to do.
Because it's a downward spiral. It's, oh man, I didn't get everything done. Fuck it, I might as well chill. Or it's, well, you're down on yourself, so it makes it even harder the next day. Like you start out in kind of a negative mood.
Mm-hmm.
And if you focus more on the action, because action breeds action, and like the more you get done, the more you feel good about yourself. It's like you build confidence in yourself, the more shit you get done too. But if you focus on that part of it, it makes a lot of difference. It's just taking a step back sometimes to like breathe, think about it. Like, yo, I'm good.
Yeah, I try to make like, and I'm sure this isn't like uncommon. Like I try to bargain with myself. Like, look, my dude, we're not gonna get everything done today. So how much is it that we can get done? I wanted to play video games today. right? Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. I haven't played the shit since the first 3 hours that it came out. You know, I haven't played the shit basically since it came out. Like I played the intro and then I haven't played it since then or whatever. And I started to I went to the barbershop, got my lineup or whatever like that. So when to get the car wash, but the car wash niggas wasn't outside. And I was like, I'm finna come home, finna play some video games, do the podcast, and then I'm gonna do my homework after that. And I shit you not, I got in the car to drive home, and I was like, if you start playing video games and you do that podcast, you're not gonna do your homework. And if you don't do it, if you don't do something, if you don't do a portion of that homework today, then you have to do all that shit tomorrow. And you know, you got to go to therapy tomorrow. And if you go to therapy tomorrow and therapy's at 2:00 and you try to go to gym in the morning, you're going to fucking the whole week off because you didn't start the day to right. You didn't start the week. My week starts off.
About shit. I'd be lying to myself.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm off on Thursday and Friday, so I start my that's how I start my week. I start my week on Thursday basically. So I go from Thursday, Friday, I'm off, and then I work Friday to Wednesday or whatever like that. But it's really because I work 2:30 to 11:30 on Saturday and Sunday, and I have 10:30 meetings on Saturday and Sunday. I try to fit like the gym in between that. Like I know that like Saturday and Sunday is kind of a fucking wash. I try to do like work at work sometimes when I can, when I can get it or whatever like that, but that's too unpredictable. You know what I'm saying? So I don't depend on that to be, I look at that as like a bonus. Like, oh, if I could do work if I could do homework while I'm at work, then that's good. But I don't go into work thinking I'm going to do homework at work. You know what I'm saying? So Thursday and Fridays are really, really big days for me in terms of setting the week off in the right direction. And I came in and I was like, all right, so how about this? If you finish 2 assignments and then you do the podcast, you can play video games after that. You know what I'm saying? And then that way, because like what'll really happen is I'll start playing. If I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing no work today, I'm finna play video games. I'll start playing video games and I won't be able to enjoy playing video games because I'll be thinking the whole time I should have been doing my fucking homework.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
if I do this, if I take this break, then I'm gonna do this and do that. Nah. I talk to myself. I try to negotiate too much, and then I'm just stuck in my head.
Yeah, I can't like, I either got to do the thing or I'm not doing the thing. Like I'm either going to do the work or I'm not going to do the work. But I can't do like a piece of the work. Like I read like today, I read my chapter and I finished my quiz. But it's like, I finished my quiz, but like, I can't like halfway read and do something and then try to do something else. Like I either got to finish the reading, finish the quiz, and then do one exercise and then I'm good. Like I can breathe better after that. But if I don't do that shit, like I'm be playing video games with the guilt face the whole fucking time. Like it's fucking insane. Like the way that my brain like makes me do these things.
Man, I don't know. We just gotta do that.
I feel like you triggered.
I triggered because like with you Red Dead Redemption, I feel the same way with PUBG. I'm like, all right, all my boys about to get on PUBG. It's 9:30 at night. If I start playing PUBG now, like it's a wrap for the night.
What is that?
It's a game, Players Unknown Battleground. So, like if I start playing now, like I'm not gonna get any work done. I'm be tired of shit in the morning. So like I'm not getting the amount of kills I should get. So whatever.
Right, like you can't even like for real focus on the shit, like because you just like your brain, you not locked in.
Yeah,
you got all this other shit going on. Like I do this, I do this, I do this, and it's like it feels different than when like I finished everything. Now let me sit down and waste the next 7 hours killing people online.
I feel like I don't even have time for fun stuff.
Why can't we just be basic, yo? Just like fuck it.
What does that mean though?
Like we don't want to overachieve. We don't want like to be. We don't want like better for ourselves.
It sucks. Self-awareness sucks at the end of the day, honestly, to me.
I mean, that you know what?
I'm never gonna. I'm always wanting to do better. So that means it's just like I'm always telling myself I'm not good enough. So you have to be real careful about that.
Right, because you know what? I always used to be like, man, like when it took me a long time to realize what ignorance is bliss means. Like what it really, really means in like in the context of life. It's like if you don't know something that could possibly hurt you, like you have a greater chance of being ignorant of something that can possibly hurt you than you do of a thing that can actually help you, right? So that's why they say it's bliss, because you're ignorant to all the things that could possibly hurt you, and you'll be fine. Like, if I didn't feel like I was talented enough to pull all the things off that I'm pulling off, if I didn't feel like I could do these things, I wouldn't have to do these things. I'd be a lot happier because I'd just be a nigga who went to work and play video games all day, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't that all of my,
well, why don't you work in that field?
yeah, I don't want to. No. You know what's funny about that too? I actually saw that somebody
You don't want
said
everything to be work.
somebody said you should be passionate about the work you do, but you should not work in your passion. And I was like, nigga, finger snaps, bro. Finger snaps.
That.
You should be like, I am a news producer, right? News producing is not my passion, but I am passionate about doing a good job with news producing, right? My passion, and if I just talk about something that was just straight passion, like it didn't bring me, or when I say like passion, I mean something that doesn't bring me like any type of money, any type of fame, just something I do purely because it makes me happy, is video games. Like video games is the thing that I do. Like that shit don't have nothing to do with nobody. That had nothing to do with nobody else. Somebody was like, well, why don't you stream if you like video games so much? Or I don't give a fuck about none of that. I pick up the controller, I press the PlayStation button, and whatever it is that I'm playing, it just blocks me out from whatever the fuck else is going on in my life, unless I actually have some fucking work to do, right? Video games are my passion, but I should not play video games for a living. I am not the kind of person who should play video games for a living, right? So be passionate about what you're doing, but don't work in your passion. I can be passionate about the fact that I produce the news, but my passion of video games is not something that I should actually pursue as like a way to make a living.
Well, why not though?
No, I say I like the quote because I feel like when I
just let you enjoy things, like everything.
Yeah, I'll say it for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, once a thing that I like to do has a monetary value attached to it, it takes the fun out of it.
Oh yeah, okay, I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoy playing video games like a motherfucker, right? But if you told me that I had to get up every single day at 8 o'clock in the morning and play video games from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and I had to entertain people, and I had to keep content going, and I had to, do YouTube, I don't want to do that shit anymore because now it's work.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I can see that.
Like I might like it, but now like I can't play video games outside of that because this is my job now. You know what I'm saying? So I really, that was a quote that really, really hit me and made me feel like it just kind of like reaffirmed some things for me in my head. Like I know you love running, right, Tunde?
Yeah.
But I mean, you run at your, I mean, you might be like a special case because you really do like running. But like if somebody was like, nigga, you got to run 365 days every single day at this particular time. Right. At this time that we tell you, at this place that we tell you, you have to do this after you run. Like every single day, we're structuring your day based on this thing.
I mean, I would do it if you paid me enough, but I wouldn't love it anymore.
But it wouldn't be a thing that you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go running after work because it's like, bitch, I just spent all day doing this.
So
like
not having to feel like you have to do anything.
Right. And that's where you're, the thing that you feel passionate. I mean, the thing that you're passionate about or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So Lexi said something about being an overachiever. Like you always feel like you're not good enough. Does that fuck with y'all self-esteem? Like,
yes.
Sure.
Okay.
What? Yes.
Of course.
Do you want an elaboration?
It's weird because it fucks with you even more when people are telling you how awesome you are, and you're like trying to not. Well, I guess I can only speak for me. Like I'm trying to not devalue their statements and accept whatever they're saying, but it's hard because you know what you could personally be doing so much more or different or better or whatever.
Yeah, same here. Like,
but I mean, that's why you gotta stop and be like, you're right. Like I am doing this, I am doing that. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I remember you just earlier in this conversation, you were asking me like, do you sign your like doctor to your name? I think a lot, especially my parents, they tend to like overplay that shit. Like they would, especially talking to their friends, like, oh, that's my son, he's a doctor, whatever. And I always downplay it, and I hate when people call me that because I always feel like I can do better, and I know people who are doing better. So, I'm not gonna,
comparing yourself.
Embrace my achievements.
Man, I'm trying to find this Sabo quote because I've been listening to the album "Care for Me," which is fucking fire, by the way. And he said something about like this. He's like, the more people give me props, like the less. He essentially said, the more people give me props, like the less I feel like I deserve what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that speaks to what you were saying earlier. It's like you work so hard, and it's like people compliment you or they give you props. It's just like, for some very strange reason, it doesn't make you feel better.
Yeah.
It somehow magically makes you feel worse. And I was like, this is just this weird conflict.
Right, though.
You said what?
I said that's not really right, though.
No, I'm not saying. What you mean?
I mean, it shouldn't be that way, right?
No, right. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way. Like, yeah, I definitely understand that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, why? Like, why do these things? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do these things happen? And I think to wrap it all up or whatever, or to sort of slide into like the ending of it, I think it goes back to, and I think we might have actually kind of discussed this in the beginning. It's like, who are we doing these things for?
Yeah.
Right? Am I doing them for me? Am I doing them for you? Am I doing them for
these haters?
I don't worry about the haters, but am I doing it for like my little brothers and sisters that are watching me? Am I trying to prove something? Am I trying to affirm something about myself? Is there some negative thing that I'm holding on to that I'm constantly trying to fight against? Is there some trauma that I'm not dealing with? You know what I'm saying? Is there some trauma that I'm not dealing with that I feel like I need to keep doing this thing in order to get away from that trauma, but it's not dealing with the problem because I'm still, faced with these problems. Like, what do you guys think? As far as your own personal things concerned, keep your opinions about me to yourself.
Who do we do this for?
Yeah.
Like you said at the very beginning of the podcast, I'm Nigerian. So like most Nigerian parents, when they have children, there's only 3 acceptable professions.
Right.
That's a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And my mom told me from, the time I was in elementary school, because I guess she saw the most promise in me because my brothers, they weren't very gifted academically. So she put the idea in my head early on that you're going to be a doctor. So that's the career path that I chose, even though my favorite subjects in high school were math and history. I still chose science as, a major, even though I like science, but I think originally that's where like I said earlier also, I never wanted to be like not busy because my parents always put that in my head that you have to be doing something, and you can't just sit around the house, even though all your chores are done, you got to be doing something. So I think originally it came from my parents, and it just multiplied or just progressed after that. So I'm gonna blame them.
That's real. When in doubt, blame your parents. Lex?
Probably came from my parents. The ideas, or me feeling like I need to be perfect, or I don't want to let them down, or like everything comes. That sounds arrogant, but everything comes pretty easily to me. So I always try to do everything. And I don't have many failures overall. And yet I still don't feel like I'm where I should be. And so I do this because of, look, I'm trying to like assess myself as I talk. I do this to validate what I think everybody else thinks about me, which I don't feel is true.
So you're doing it for the haters?
No, not for haters. People don't hate on me like that. I mean, or they don't do it loudly. I don't care about anybody who doesn't care about me, period. But there's a lot of people who do look to me. I have people hit me up. Like last week, I had like 3 people hit me up about, can I be their mentor? And I'm like, nigga, I got like $3. But okay. I mean, I just feel like there's a lot to prove to myself. But I feel like that's a cliche answer, and I don't think that's quite deep enough. I don't know who I'm doing it for necessarily. I just want to get this money.
We all want to get that money.
Fargo.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've gone through different stages of who I'm doing this thing for, and I think I've finally gotten to a point where it's like I am actually doing this for myself now. Like, I think when I first started, I was doing it to I'm Jamaican, so I'm a Jamaican and we're immigrants. So you're indoctrinated. I mean, like Tunde was saying about Nigerians, like nobody in my family was really trying to hear no shit. It was like lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, we didn't even have a discussion about no other shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of what I did. And then like when I didn't pass the bar and I was unemployed, like I was really confused about like what it was that I wanted to do, because I was like, I wanted to write. That's what I wanted to do, but that shit wasn't paying no bills. Like I was in a relationship and I was trying to figure out like how I'm gonna like maintain and sustain what we got going on as I try to get some fucking work or whatever like that. And then now, like I have like 5 brothers and sisters. Like, your mother always said, you're a role model and that kind of stuff or whatever. So like, not that I was necessarily doing it for them, but I was aware that they were watching me. You know what I'm saying? That my mom would be relaying the stories that were happening with me to them in hopes of inspiring them to do better. But like I think now, like I think grad school probably just makes everything a lot more pressurized or whatever. Because if without grad school, I'd probably just be living a regular ass life. But like now, I 97% of the time I'm just doing this shit for me. Like I work at the job that I work at because I like working there. Also because I like getting my bills paid and I like having money in my account. But I like going to work too. You know what I'm saying? Like I write articles. And because my job pays me well enough, like I don't have to like pitch articles that I don't care about writing. Because before it was just kind of like just write whatever it is that's going to get you paid. That's how I ended up working at Bossip. Right now, I write. If I have a good idea for an article, I'll pitch somebody and I'm like, I'm gonna write this article because this is what I want to see. Like I don't think about what other people want me to write about. I think about what kind of article that I would want to read, and then I write that article. When we do podcast stuff, when we talk about stuff, like I talk about stuff that I think that I would want to hear somebody talk about. For whatever reason, today ended up being about being a fucking overachiever because I'm in between assignments right now. But that's kind of what came out. So I think I've gotten better about getting into more things that sort of serve me in the way that I need them to serve me, as opposed to like, how are we gonna keep these lights on, nigga? Because when you got to worry about how you're gonna keep the lights on, you're gonna be doing a lot of shit that you don't want to do because you keep the lights on.
But I feel like I enjoy everything that I do and everything that's on my plate, and yet it's still too much. So what's the problem?
I mean, it's like ice cream, nigga. You love ice. You like ice cream, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
What do you like? What is something that you really like to eat?
Ooh, tacos.
Okay.
I had tacos last night.
Right. So if the nigga handed you 150 tacos and super just right now, like it's like diminishing returns. It's like the first taco is going to be like the most delicious taco that you ever had. The second taco is going to be equally as good because you confirm that how
good earlier. It still needs to be on your terms. Like just because you like it, and you feel like you have to do shit, it makes everything different.
You eat that fourth taco though, you gonna be like, all right.
But that 100th taco, you like, man, fuck tacos.
Yeah, you will be like, bitch, I don't like lettuce, I don't like beef, I don't like none of this shit no more. You know what I'm saying? By the 150th taco, you're probably gonna be in the ER. So, I mean, it's basically, I think everything has to be done in moderation, right? Like you can take on 5 projects that you love to do because you have these individual passions and you love to do these things. But if all 5 of them niggas got 5 deadlines that are like all 5 deadlines are due at these disparate points in the calendar where you have other shit going on, like then it becomes a burden. So it's not always the work that's the burden. It's the life portion that comes attached with the work. That's the burden.
Again,
I see you processing. I see it's like I see it going on in there.
I just want to be content with being a bum, yo. Sometimes
that's real. That is absolutely the fuck real. But I mean, talented 10th niggas is talented 10th, nigga. Going to school ass niggas.
Do you believe in it?
No, I don't. That's why I said it like that. That's why I said it in the mocking tone that I did. The talented 10th.
Oh, I don't understand. I never understood that term. I seen it in reference to like kids in school or something like that.
No, it's like I believe
W.E.B. Du Bois, he like came up with a concept that the top 10% of the black population is gonna like rise to the top and do great things, and then come back and pull up the other 90%.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we should focus all our energy in the top 10%, basically.
Yeah. I do not believe in the talented 10th. I really was just
Mhm.
mocking that idea. All right. I know Lex got to go and I got homework. So if nobody got any final comments, then
I got
You
to
know,
take a
Get to
shower.
these meetings.
yeah, Tunde came right off his 17-mile stinky ass run to sit on the podcast. So hopefully we see y'all next week. But I got a lot of assignments.
Hold
So
up before we go.
what?
People, screenshot this episode and tell us like how you deal with overachievement and stress. Because I'm interested in like we didn't talk too much about things that we do to try to like stay sane. We did a little bit, but I'm always down for some tips.
All right.
Same here.
All right. Well, I don't know if we're gonna be back next week. Hopefully we will.
If not, I'll be on here solo.
Tunde gonna do a solo episode.
So I can roast you. That
But
would be
that's
cool. Maybe that would give some slack. Everybody do a solo episode. Just talk about what you want to talk about.
shit.
I'm gonna get your tips on running.
I mean, ask people again, y'all. If y'all down for that, let me know. That way, we can each do one and have next 3 episodes for the month.
Give Garfield a break.
Yeah, niggas tired. But all right then. NWAP season 5, episode 10. We'll holler at y'all sometime in the hopefully near future. Peace.
Wow.
Peace.